Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ongoing Mastery, presenting and speaking the podcast and the conversation about conferences. Hi, Kelly. How are you?
Hey, hey, Kirsten, how are
I'm wired. I'm a little punchy.
you?
Wonder why?
Well, maybe because you just got back from the Black Hat convention in Vegas.
Yes. Yes, indeed. It was a wild ride. First cybersecurity conference. Definitely won't be my last. Had a great time. Learned a lot. Learned a
Yeah.
lot. It was interesting.
Well, the first thing I got to ask you is about the name. Because you say Black Hat, I think 1950s Clint Eastwood, spaghetti Western, good guys in
Mm-hmm.
white, bad guys in black. And because I'm a child of the 80s, then I think hackers who
Yep.
are purposely breaking laws, breaking social norms and ethics for fun and profit. So, what's up with the name of this conference?
You actually nailed it. Yeah, so it started out as black and white hat, which now there's multiple colored hats, but that's a separate story. And it's part of there's black hat, there's uh, and I'm
DEF
gonna
CON.
thank you, DevCon, and there's a series of these two plus a couple other things are Hacker Summer Camp. So there's a whole like series of things that are done.
Yeah.
But these events are a mix of hackers who are just they're doing their thing, professional cybersecurity hackers, security professionals, governmental types. It's a mix, and it is definitely a let's figure out how to see how this kind of how somebody thinks, how someone
Yeah.
who's going to do this activity or do this work thinks, how they'd approach the world. And from the cybersecurity lens, there's definitely a all right, so what does the adversary look like? Well, how are we going to be using these tools? And there's a lot of gamesmanship, there's a lot of strategy, there's it's a fascinating world. And I came into it only from creating e-learning about the subject. So I came into it in a business focus and
Yeah.
not realizing what the greater world was. So this was like
Yep.
Christmas. I had so much fun.
I was gonna say, and going in with those expectations, what did you actually find the convention floor to be like?
So everybody who knows cybersecurity is just laughing at me, including you and your husband, which is totally valid,
Yeah.
because I my conference experience is in the learning and development world. Now, the educators in the learning and development world are awesome. Many of us are geeky, many of us are theatrical, but in general, it is a softer, quieter, much more regular crowd. There are outliers. People like me are the edgy theatrical loudballs, weirdos. Um, this environment, all the people I would consider outliers like me are pretty much exactly what the population is. It's the norm. And so
Yeah.
I was absolutely thrilled to discover that I went thinking that I'd be going to a conference like DevLearn or Learning 2023 where it's a mix of people, but generally I'm on the outskirts of the personality curve. And
Yeah.
instead, it was more like going to a Boscone or a Regia or an SCA event. So those are the Boston Convention, so sci-fi and comic conventions, Society for Creative Anachronism, things like that.
Yeah.
Those are the history you and I have, and I didn't realize how tied this world was to that kind of theatrical, dynamic, opinionated, passionate, and I was like, oh my God, these are my people. It was
Right.
amazing. And I was treated beautifully. I was welcomed. It was so kind.
That's great. I mean, the nerds of our generation grew up, got an education, got jobs, and are now the leaders of the cybersecurity industry. This is
Very
why I
much.
was not surprised.
And I shouldn't have been, but like the people that I knew that were telling me about it, I thought were outliers like me. And I didn't realize that
Yeah.
it's like, oh no, 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 no. No, this is what industry looks like. And I'm like, this is amazing. I love this. I also had the absolute honor and pleasure of being able to sit in the room when CyberPod World interview was recorded. So the top 5
Yes.
cybersecurity podcasts all were brought together to have a discussion about podcasting by cybersecurity professionals for cybersecurity professionals. And I got to watch and listen to these brilliant, amazing, kind, passionate people who are all like, I mean, they're like, look, here's what we're trying to do. Here's what we want.
Yeah.
Let's be straight up about it. And I'm like, it's my people. Oh my God, this was great. So just a grand old time. I will say not every aspect of the event was positive. There were some
I was going to say,
downsides.
yeah, you were
Phew.
you were on the convention floor for your whole time there and had a mixed experience. Some booth design really blew you away with its awesomeness, and
Yes.
some overwhelmed you with some details that could have been better. So
Yes.
let's
Very much.
start on the downside and end on the positive. What are some of the booth design elements that you found were not thought through enough for this space?
So I appreciate the concept of stunt marketing. I do. I get that getting people onto your email list is almost your entire goal for being there. I feel like that's short-sighted, but okay. Having events, games where you get people there and you get to scan the badge and then that's it. And you don't really have conversations beyond that. You know, climb stairs, drop a puck, I earn a pen that has your name on it, but it's not anything that tied me to the name of your company or what you do in any way beyond just I did a little trick from a game and then ended up with a bit of swag I'm frankly never going to use.
So it wasn't a good pen.
Oh, it was not a good pen. It was not. It was like a generic. I was like, oh yeah, I'm not even gonna keep this.
No.
I mean, I won a light up sword that I gave to one of the security guards because I was like, no, this is great, but I'm not bringing this back in my bag. I got some awesome t-shirts. I got Rock'em Sock'em t-shirt from one booth that did a Rock'em Sock'em theme. Awesome, awesome.
Okay.
There was a booth, Splunk, that had a t-shirt that says "You bet your sweet sass."
Nice.
Which I loved, and also happened to have a cybersecurity expert that I'm familiar with speaking, Jake. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. You know, I'm watching all of
Yep.
this and the setup is good. But mostly it was either booths were just trying to grab your swipe, like get on my email list. We'll deal with you after the fact,
Mm-hmm.
stunting, and just look, we have cookies, or everybody had coffee, which is great. But it completely missed the whole point, which is develop some relationships.
Yeah.
But the ones that went all in, 2 of them really, really pissed me off. One of them
gosh.
was a woman I walked by, and I was muttering under my breath, and I was sufficiently hostile walking away from her booth that the next booth stopped me and said, "Are you okay?" And
Oh
I said,
God.
"I'm
Oh.
really mad at the woman over there because she's calling people into the booth by insulting them."
Oh.
She's like, "Oh, you think you're smart? I bet you think you're smart. Come on over here and try our game. You're not as smart as you think you are. Come on." And I'm like, "No, no, wrong answer." And I'm walking past her going, I want to talk to whoever thought that was a good idea because I'm pissed. And I got
Wow.
this lovely conversation with the next booth about how you bring people in because
Yeah.
they had this whole game, but she was just trying to be so edgy that I'm like, but you're insulting people.
And
Like,
there's a time and a place for that kind of comedy, but
mm-hmm.
you have to choose to go to it. And if you find that funny, then that's awesome. But random mix of people on the convention floor, you don't know who's going to find that funny. It's a
Yeah.
gamble. It's Vegas, but it doesn't sound like the gamble paid off.
It didn't seem to. And And especially for a group of people who we all pride ourselves on our intelligence. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I saw one thing that was, we enjoy crushing hackers, blah blah blah. And I'm looking at it
Mm-hmm.
going, you're at a hacker convention, and your marketing is about how you enjoy crushing hackers like bugs.
Hmm.
Interesting. And in fact,
Yeah.
I saw people on LinkedIn commenting about it, and I'm like, yeah, not a fan. So that one, and then the other one that
Yeah.
that pissed me off was they tried so hard. They had a game. They had a car you could climb in and play a video game. They had all this stuff. They had this big, huge floor imprint. They had lots of things, and they had this poor guy who obviously
Oh
had
no.
put the work in to learn. And it was Charlie Brown's teacher. I walked by, and it was, and it was
Ugh.
loud and it hurt and it was awful. And most people were standing listening and not, like, you could sort of get what he was saying, but you had to really attend. And then some people had headsets because the booths obviously figured out sound was a problem. So many of them provided headsets to be able to hear the speaker, which is great.
Yeah.
But I walked away from that feeling that they had done this man a huge disservice. Like, as a
Right.
speaker, if he was one of my people, I'd be ripping somebody a new one if he
Yeah.
was one of my clients, because I'd be like, he took the time to learn this skill set and practice, and look at what you've given him for a stage.
Yeah.
No. And I bumped into a woman, and we both looked at each other and apologized and laughed and said, oh, just the environment. And I said, I know, I want to actually get some sound foam and put some walls up over here. And she goes, oh, actually what I would do is there's these white noise walls. And we started problem solving the booth. And we just sent, I don't even know her name. We spent and talked for 5 minutes about how we would fix the fact that the audio imprint of that booth was so painful and nasty, it was actually repellent. And part of
Yeah.
that is the acoustics of that space were brutal, but you have to think about that. You have to design for
Sure.
that. And so most people, I thought, were trying, but kind of were doing stunts like, yeah, okay, you want everyone to pick locks. Great. Everybody's got locks clipped onto a chain wall, and everybody's picking them, and that's great and that's adorable. I'm not sure how that's getting you more business, but maybe it's building brand awareness for you in a way that is that's fine. But most of it was this desperate, can I scan your badge? Come sit
Mm.
here. I'll give you a t-shirt if I can scan your badge. And it's like, you're then putting the work of the relationship building off to after the event, when
Right.
you actually have them physically in front of you. And that's when the
And
work should be done.
and you're just treating it like a transaction. I give you
Exactly.
this, you scan my badge, that, and now we have made our relationship, and
It,
that's not what it is.
and it shouldn't be, because especially a lot of these folks are really passionate about being able to, make the world safer.
Yeah.
And so they care. So if you can talk to them on an emotional level, if you can talk to them on a human level, you can have an actual conversation that might actually make connections between your businesses. But instead, it's this whole numbers game. And I was sad to see how that is just a commonality at every single type of conference I've been at. Um, so,
So
some
before we
mixes.
get to the booth that you loved,
Yes.
you had an on the fly, pivot in the moment, adapt in the moment opportunity that is exactly about what you were just saying, making real connections with people. Tell us about that.
So, because I went to this as a public speaking coach who is looking specifically to work with bright, passionate people, I pretty much everybody there is my ideal client in some way, shape, or form. So I was walking around introducing
Yeah.
myself as a public speaking coach, and I got literally half and half reaction. Half were, oh wow, I really need that. That's great. And half were, they literally shifted their body weight back onto their heels. unconsciously. And it was and I realized when I saw that, I think it was 2 or 3 times in a row, that I went, oh, they're afraid of being judged. Okay. Got it. And I would say things like, I'm not here to judge. No. And, and I try to explain my concept around, no, to be bad at public speaking is actually really hard. Most people are just under-resourced and they're not given the right strategies. So I tried having that conversation, but I pretty early figured out, I'm like, okay, I can't lead with that because I'm putting people off. So the next booth I went to, I said, well, I'm a technical training and public speaking coach. And they actually leaned in and went, you are? That's perfect. And every person after that, I used that, they were like, oh, and they took away the concern that I was going to be judging them because they understood the context of, I'm looking at the overall message and we can talk about the strategy. And it's not about, I'm bad at public speaking, which again, most people really aren't.
Yeah.
Really, really aren't. So yeah,
that's awesome.
I was glad I got to see that. That helped a lot.
Practicing what we preach, walking the walk.
Yeah, it's amazing how actually doing the things we coach our clients on is helpful. Yay, go us.
All right, so I want to hear about the booth that blew you away. Tell us all about it.
All right. So there's a booth, and I will have to I'll have to look at the photos and grab the name of it. And I should have. I wish. Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes, definitely. So they were wearing shirts that said either human or robot. They had a coffee bar, which was awesome. That was great. They had these lounge areas with nice seating, great. But I walked up and I'm like, this is a set design. There's an entire wall here that looks like a combination bookstore and comic shop. Interesting. And then they actually had a comic artist come on, and they had all of their marketing materials were done in graphic novel style, and like they really leaned into it. And so I went up to somebody and I said, I need to ask about the history of this booth. And he said, oh yeah, let me tell you. So we started in a comic book shop, and we were, that's where we started the business. So we're honoring the tradition of it. And we talked a little bit, and I said, well, I am incredibly impressed with not only the floor design, not only the set design, but the fact that you've obviously talked to your people about how you want it to feel to come into this space. Somebody put a lot of thought into this. Was that you? And he said, no, it was her. And he pointed to the woman over by the coffee bar. And I went over, and Angel is helping. Thank you, Angel. We want your opinion always.
Thank you, Angel.
And I walked over and I introduced myself, and I was like, so is this your brainchild? And she's like, well, it's partially. Yeah. And we talked a little bit. And I was just so impressed because here's all the things they did right. They had plenty of, now admittedly, this takes money. They had plenty of floor space. So they had space where people could, they could come up and get coffee, they could get the marketing materials, but they could also have conversations. There was lots of couch areas, lots of conversational space. It was designed to be calm. It was designed to be friendly. It was very welcoming. It was very creative. And everybody was geared, like there were some obvious pitch sessions. Like there were a few places where we're showcasing our software. No problem. Sure. But everybody was obviously given the message of your job is not to grab them by the throat and get their damn badge scan. Right. Your job is to smile and say hi. Right. And I was literally counting the number of people that did not mug me and went, yes, someone thought this through. Because most booths, it was have they scanned your badge? 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 And once they've scanned your badge, then, can we help you? What do you do? Have you heard about our software? The number of times I heard, have you heard about our product? It's like, that is not how you start that conversation. Yeah. And these people were like, hey, hi. So Have you had coffee? You want to see? So what do you think? Just gesture, right?
Yeah.
Open-ended to give the person a chance to give you how they want to have that conversation. And
Yes.
they all obviously were on message because the
Nice.
body language was more relaxed. It was more open and friendly. I mean, this is a team who really thought about the impact of the time they had on that floor and how unbelievably expensive that obviously was. And they were going to maximize that and that was the best brand awareness, because I don't remember their name, but I'm going to go look it up and I'm going to write a blog post with their company's name in it and photos about their booth, because they did such a good job at showing their culture.
Yeah.
And showing why they're somebody that I would want to do business with. Like, they nailed it. And I was going, okay, aside from the fact that obviously this cost a lot, on a smaller scale, this could be done by everybody. Like, this is the case study for exactly how to do, you want to work with us, don't you? That's the message, right?
Nice.
You might not close a sale today, but you're going to close a sale down the road if there's someone you want to work with. And there's frankly so many cybersecurity vendors that you really need to be working based on relationship and not based on, spray and pray garbage.
Yeah.
Which I obviously have lots of thoughts.
Yes. We will perhaps save those for another podcast and wrap here.
Yeah, because this could go on for a while. But it was great. To everybody that I met at Black Hat, thank you for welcoming an outsider in and being so gracious and kind. And everybody was lovely. They were just absolutely wonderful. And I really, really appreciate it. So that's my message today.
Well, then. That's fantastic. And my takeaway is be ready to set aside your assumptions, because you never know what you're going to find.
100%. And I'm definitely going to multiple Hacker Summer Camp events next year, because that was 100% worth it. All right.
All right. Why don't you bring it on home?
Yeah. In the comments, if you went to Hacker Summer Camp, please tell us in the comments if we got anything wrong. If any of my assumptions about this were completely off base, I do want to know. And otherwise, just, drop your name and let us know where we can find you next time. And let's have a conversation. Nice to see everybody. We'll catch you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.